It's very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
I've got Peter from The Guardian.
Do you think one of the problems is that Nigel Farage can approximate talking like a human being, where you just resort to talking points and dodging questions?
Sir Keir Starmer was torn to shreds by The Guardian.
Minister Farage, Nigel Farage has 5 MPs, you've got 403. Are you panicking because Reform is so far ahead in the polls, it seems? Is he living rent-free in your brain?
The Prime Minister was utterly humiliated by GB News.
The speed of the decline in your popularity is historically unprecedented. Isn't this speech today an admission that you have failed and Nigel Farage understands voters better than you?
Even the BBC piled in on him. Sir Keir Starmer is cooked. But at 10 p.m... we will hear live from Nigel Farage. Yes, he's got a new policy to announce, apparently, and also, I'm assuming, he's probably going to get stuck into the Prime Minister. Also tonight...
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back to the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick exposes tube fare dodgers and...
Mohsin has a rare genetic disease which is gradually destroying his body.
Nearly 40% of Pakistani and Bangladeshi people in Britain think cousin marriage is OK. What do we do about that? Plus, 2 devastating immigration stories. It's making cities impossible to police, and Britain, get ready for this, is going to run out of water due to the sheer number of people. On my panel this evening, we've got former Conservative MP Jane Stevenson, Tory peer Lord Bailey and ex-Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser, and what's going on here? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. A blow-by-blow of Sir Keir Starmer's worst day as Prime Minister. Next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. A 53-year-old man has been charged after a car was driven into a crowd at Liverpool FC's Trophy Parade. Paul Doyle from the West Derby area of Liverpool has been charged with 7 offences, 6 charges related to grievous bodily harm, 1 count of dangerous driving. Thousands of fans were gathered in Liverpool city centre on Monday to celebrate the Premier League champions' title win when a car struck a crowd on Water Street. Police said a total of 79 people were injured, with the youngest aged 9, the oldest being 78. 7 people remain in hospital in a stable condition. Paul Doyle will appear in court tomorrow morning. Nigel Farage cannot be trusted. That was the message of Sir Keir Starmer as he took on Reform UK's economic policy in a speech today. The Prime Minister accused the party of gambling with the nation's finances. It follows a speech made by Nigel Farage on Tuesday in which he accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no passion. In response to the speech, Mr Farage said, "In the last 24 hours, I've been attacked by Starmer, Badenoch, Swinney, Sarwar and just about everybody else except for the voters. We must be winning." The Prime Minister said Reform UK's policy is like having Liz Truss all over again. In the US now, an international trade court has blocked President Trump from imposing global tariffs on imports. The court accused the US president of overstepping his authority after utilising emergency powers to enforce the tariffs. The president claimed the matter was a national emergency and didn't get approval from Congress. The UK government's reacted to the news today, saying these are matters for the United States to determine domestically. Sticking with the US, all of that comes as Elon Musk has announced he's leaving the Trump administration. While his role was always temporary, the ex-owner's departure from Doge comes just one day after he criticised President Trump's budget bill. The Health Secretary says striking doctors have lost public support as he warned any strike action could choke the NHS. This comes as resident doctors demanded a pay rise of almost 30%. Meanwhile, the British Medical Association is balloting 50,000 doctors to strike for a 6-month period despite receiving the highest salary increase out of the public sector workers. The Health Secretary has written in the Times today to urge doctors to vote no in the ballot. And an inquest has heard that a farmer killed himself the day before the budget after weeks of worrying about looming changes to inheritance tax. John Charlesworth's son said he believed his father wanted to beat the government's proposals and save the farm for future generations. 78-year-old Charlesworth was found dead by his son in a barn on their farm in Barnsley in October last year. An inquest at Sheffield Coroner's Court heard that Mr Charlesworth had been struggling to care for his wife, who had severe dementia and had also recently been diagnosed with cancer. The hearing was told that in recent months before Reeves' budget, he'd been growing more and more anxious about inheritance tax and the implications for the farm. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Today was Sir Keir Starmer's worst day as Prime Minister. He's currently so toxic that polonium looks at him and runs away. The latest poll put Reform about 10 points ahead, and he's lost the red wall. So his team of crack advisors said, go to the red wall, win them back, slag off Nigel Farage. They'll love that, Sir Keir. Here's what happened.
I've got Peter from The Guardian.
Do you think one of the problems is that Nigel Farage can approximate talking like a human being, where you just resort to talking points and dodging questions?
He's lost The Guardian.
Reform UK say you're running scared of them, that you're sounding increasingly like them with some of the policies and announcements you've made recently. This is a speech that was very defensive, wasn't it?
He's lost Sky News.
Let me go to Chris Hope. Chris.
Chris Hope, GB News. Prime Minister Farage, Nigel Farage has 5 MPs. You've got 403. Are you panicking because Reform is so far ahead in the polls, it seems? Is he living rent-free in your brain? You went to a state school. Your dad worked in a factory. Your mum worked in the NHS. So why has a public school-educated former city trader got more in common with the red wall than you have?
He's got Nigel Farage living rent-free in his head, and just in case he wasn't absolutely sure, he's being told how unpopular he is.
The speed of the decline in your popularity is historically unprecedented. Isn't this speech today an admission that you have failed and Nigel Farage understands voters better than you?
And now people are just pointing out to him that he's not actually delivered on anything that he said he would when he got elected.
You went into the election promising to freeze national insurance and keep the 2-child benefit cap. You've since raised national insurance on businesses and now you're considering axing the cap. Isn't attacking Nigel Farage's economic credibility a bit rich?
Yikes. And then, after all that, he has the temerity to say that he's more trustworthy than Nigel Farage.
And that's the question you have to ask about Nigel Farage. Can you trust him? Can you trust him with your future? Can you trust him with your jobs? Can you trust him with your mortgages, your pensions, your bills? And he gave the answer on Tuesday. A resounding no. He set out economic plans that contained billions upon billions of completely unfunded spending. Precisely the sort of irresponsible splurge that sent your mortgage cost, your bills, and the cost of living through the roof.
Pensioners, farmers, business owners, people who care about not giving away British sovereign territory, people who pay energy bills, the disabled, private school parents, just some of the people who might feel as though Sir Keir Starmer hasn't been entirely honest with them in his first 10 months as PM. And all he's got now is to try and say how working class he is.
Like Nigel Farage, I know what it's like growing up in a cost of living crisis. I know what it's like when your family can't pay the bills, when you fear the postman and the bills that may be brought.
Look, nothing screams being in touch with the public like delivering a series of speeches in secure, sterile locations surrounded by security. He can't go and meet working class people because this happens.
That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub! Go on! Get out of my pub!
Yeah. Today's absolute disaster confirmed one thing. Sir Keir Starmer is only about 10 months in, and he's already finished. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got former Conservative MP Jane Stevenson, Tory peer Lord Bailey, and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer. Jane, I'll start with you. That was pretty devastating, that, for Sir Keir Starmer, wasn't it, really? Getting mauled by every single member of the press.
Yeah, but I'm not surprised. I mean, he was never popular. In the whole of the general election campaign, I met 2 people out of hundreds and hundreds of doors. There was no love for Labour in the Black Country, and it was all about that vote being split between Reform and the Conservatives. So I don't know why Keir Starmer's particularly confused that he's getting a bad reception, but he did look a little bit shell-shocked, I thought.
Yeah, he did. Just to say as well, at 10 p.m, we are going to be hearing live from Nigel Farage. A couple of things. Apparently got a big policy announcement specifically aimed at the 18 to 30s. No, it's not a cruise in the Med. Oh, it might be. We don't know, do we? But apparently he's also got a couple of things to say about Sir Keir Starmer. But Sean, I'll bring you in on this. I mean, he is now in the Red Wall being ripped apart by everyone. Is it game over for him already?
So I'm the opposite. I'm completely surprised that the press have turned on him. One of the features, I believe, of Starmer's premiership and before he was Prime Minister is that the press have been very, very gentle with him, very gentle. And what went on in that room today, I thought, was a complete reversal of where they've been up till now. If they keep that pressure on, I think he could go. The problem with having so many MPs is that they can form really big clumps and come after him, and with a 2-child benefit situation I think he could be in trouble, and with the winter fuel you've seen where it is. I think everybody now is hounding him, and he's learning what I tell everyone, it's not as easy as it looks.
Well, no, I also wonder if there was another catastrophic mistake that he made several times today. We've got a little clip here, right, and this is the amount of times that he mentioned Nigel Farage. Here you go.
The reason I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Farage. Nigel 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 Farage.
Matthew's rattled, isn't he?
No, I mean, look, clearly reform has to be taken very seriously. Let's remind ourselves that we may be seeing a huge change in British politics. The Conservatives are either in a very poor third or in 4th place in the opinion polls. You have lots of people saying, is this a moment like that after the First World War when the Liberals when the Labour took over from the Liberals as the party, the main party of the centre left. So it was clearly a come-out fighting speech. I think a lot of Labour MPs today are happy to hear him come out fighting. I wonder how many times...
What was the fight?
I wonder how many times Nigel, in his speech earlier in the week, said Keir Starmer. It was quite a few. I'm not sure whether we had the time. The fight was very clear. The fight was on policy. The fight was on the fact that Nigel Farage seems to have found a magic money tree where he thinks that taking down a few pride flags is going to fund a revolution in public services.
He wants to end net zero, shut down asylum hotels, hotels and get rid of DEI. So it's quite
asylum hotels use is going down anyway. You know, Nigel, what's going to happen on the first day of a Nigel Farage premiership? He's going to open the doors of the asylum hotels, or he thinks somebody's going to sort of push everybody into the... You know, one important point, Patrick, is on the best line I thought he had, which you haven't used, is about Jaguar Land Rover, one of Britain's leading companies, where because they put out an ad that some people thought was a bit woke, Nigel, in his crash way, said, "I hope they go bust." And Keir said to them, "Why don't you come and say that to the JLR workers?" So, you know, the other day when Nigel was saying, "Come to the Red Wall," I'd love to see Nigel stand in front of those workers and tell them he thought they should go bust because of one commercial.
OK, all right. Jada, do you think that he made a mistake there mentioning Nigel Farage so many times?
That's a lot of mentions. If Nigel Farage is mentioning Keir Starmer, he's our Prime Minister, whether you like that or not. So there is good reason to mention Keir Starmer. But I think clearly Labour have recognised where their problem is, because in the Black Country and seats like I represented, it is people who go to the pub, they like Nigel, they think they can identify with him, the same way they like Boris Johnson.
They don't like Kemi, though, do they?
Well, they don't know Kemi yet, so I think she's got time to cut through a little bit.
Does that say that in the Red Wall they prefer Jeremy Corbyn's Kemi Baden, not? This is the figures.
But Kemi, I tell you the difference with Kemi. Kemi hasn't and won't make the mistake that Keir Starmer's made. Kemi doesn't pretend to be one of them. Keir Starmer is. They don't want him. And what's interesting about Keir Starmer, he's not leaning into being the PM. He shouldn't refer to Nigel in that way. The comment that is Nigel living rent-free in his head, absolutely. But more importantly, also his advisors. His advisors should have said, you come out and dismantle Nigel, because Nigel will also find out it's not quite as simple as it looks. But don't make Nigel your equal, and that's exactly what
that's not. I'll sit with you and I'll get your views on this, Matthew. But Keir Starmer's been making a virtue, in my view, wrongly, about how working class he is and how much he resonates with it and how much he understands the working class versus Nigel Farage, because the
stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Nigel looks like your uncle. He's a geezer you bump into the pub. There's 50 million Nigels in this country. If you got off of your chair now and walked down the pub, you'd find Nigel Farage. And the fact that Keir Starmer doesn't identify that is why Labour will have a problem in the future. Look, let's be clear. Up until now, reform has been a Tory problem. It's been a problem for the Tories, and now going to become a problem for Labour.
But I'll put that to you. I absolutely get that on paper, Keir Starmer is, quotes unquote, more working class than Nigel Farage. OK, fine. But I think he's done everything in his life to try and get away from them, hasn't he? Surrounded himself by multi-millionaire international lawyer types. You know, he's got his £2 million pad in Islington or wherever else. I don't really think he's in broad... I mean, he doesn't look like the kind of guy that I think would like to go to a Wetherspoons, does he?
I'm sure he does go to a Wetherspoons. Look, Nigel composes the pint outside a pub or all he likes. Nigel's a very pleasant chap. But on the other hand, he is a privately educated city trader.
Well,
and Nigel doesn't live in a 2 up, 2 down in Hartlepool, however much you like to pretend he does. Look, what we've had... what's hilarious about this conversation is we have two Tories here, and the fact is the Tories are an utter and total irrelevant... No, I'm not changing the subject. Things are so bad for the Tory party, Sean, but he didn't... Do you know who he didn't mention once? Kemi Baden not. Because you know where she's in Ibiza? Irrelevant, and she'll be out of a job soon.
Let me say two things.
I'm told she's in Ibiza.
Let me say two things to you. Firstly, Nigel Farage is more working class than Keir Starmer ever will be, because he's the type of working class person that working class people want to be. They're ambitious for themselves and their children. The idea that you have to be working class and poor is ridiculous. That working class people don't want to be poor. That's the first thing. And let's be very, 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 very clear. Keir Starmer is nothing like the working classes, and they're aware of it.
Neither's Nigel.
I don't buy Keir Starmer's poor me, gas bills unpaid. He went to Junior Guildhall. I went to the Guildhall School of Music. He was a junior scholar there, playing 3 instruments, which is very unusual. Most kids, working-class kids, do not play flute, violin and something.
I think some working-class kids do learn an instrument.
No, they do, but they don't travel to London.
I agree with you. I don't think it's healthy in politics to have a kind of pro-Lib now discussion. Kemi did, of course, once tell us that she knew what workers felt because she did 3 days in a McDonald's in Wimbledon, but that was an embarrassing...
I'll put... If you, as former Labour Party advisor, right, would you have advised Sir Keir Starmer to go and go to a series of very sterile areas in the Red Wall and give a speech that relentlessly referenced Nigel Farage and then take an absolute self-inflicted battering from the press?
Well, because it was a wholly political speech, it wasn't a policy speech. The press are always going to ask you tough questions because it's not like they're not an announcement they can question you on and say, you know, how many new schools, how many new hospitals is this? The truth of the matter is he needs to come out fighting. The whole Labour Party needs to show up that Nigel is a con man.
He hasn't
I thought it was much better, genuinely, and I'll be critical of him from time to time. I was rewatching the clips just before we came on air. I genuinely thought it was a much better, more relaxed and punchy performance than usual.
4 years from an election, why isn't he focusing on making the country better, not on Nigel Farage?
He is, and he gives policy speeches most of the time. This is recess week, so this is the time to be a political speaker.
Ultimately, Matthew's correct. He does have to come out and fight Nigel, but not in the way he does. He today has made Nigel Farage more important than he was yesterday. The speech was terrible, the idea was terrible, and the execution was also terrible. Nigel would have been over the moon watching that being referred to it.
Well,
he made Nigel his equal today, and he should not be doing that.
Well, there we go. So, again, I will tell you, in fact, you can see it on your screens now if you are watching us on telly or online. At 10 p.m, we're expecting to hear live from Nigel Farage. What we've been told is that there is a policy announcement in there for 18 to 30-year-olds, a core demographic, increasingly a number of people who are, of course, going towards reform. So that'll be interesting. But I'm also reliably informed there'll be a couple of spicy lines about Sir Keir Starmer in there as well. So watch this space. But there's just 2 weeks left now to get your entry into our biggest Great British giveaway today. It's 67 grand's worth of motorhome. It's 4 berth, I believe, and some cash on top. Here's your chance to win.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, loads coming your way, including this.
I have to say, when I was with the staff, they were equally excited about the e-gates and being able to go on their holidays.
Oh, it's turned out that's a load of rubbish. But the mainstream media has only just cottoned on and got round to reading the terms of the Prime Minister's EU surrender deal. Is it yet more proof that the establishment media are just a load of rabid Ramonas? Find out in a few moments' time. But before that, just under 40% of Pakistani and Bangladeshi Brits think that cousin marriage should remain legal. There's the latest stats published today. Have we imported backward ideologies into Britain? That's next.
Nigel is back.
Good evening.
Unfiltered.
Are these proposals bold enough?
Uncompromising.
Will it bring growth?
Unmissable.
We as a country are brilliant.
Nigel Farage returns this Tuesday from 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Yep, at 10 p.m. we're going to be hearing live from Nigel Farage, a response, I think, to some of the things that Keir Starmer was saying earlier. But first, have we imported backward ideologies into the UK? It's time for a head-to-head. So, new figures today have revealed that 4 in 10 British Pakistanis think that cousin marriage should remain legal. So the Tory MP Richard Holden last year introduced a bill to ban that practice, which would bring cousin marriages into the same bracket as, say, marrying a parent, a child, a sibling or a grandparent. But a new poll released today has revealed that just under 40% of Pakistani and Bangladeshi Brits think that cousin marriage is actually OK. That's despite 77% of Brits indicating that the practice should actually be made illegal. So children born from a first cousin union have a 6% chance of inheriting a disorder such as cystic fibrosis or sickle cell disease. That is double the risk of the general population. And independent MP Iqbal Mohammed sparked outrage last year for defending cousin marriage.
A much more positive approach would be to facilitate advanced genetic test screening for prospective married couples, as is the case in all Arab countries in the Persian Gulf, and more generally to run health education programs targeting those communities where the practice is most common.
OK, so have we now imported backward ideologies into Britain? Going head-to-head on this now, the chairman of Pickthall House, which is a think tank focused, in part anyway, on multiculturalism. We've got Mustafa Varsi and also, as well, lawyer and broadcaster Mohammed Akunji. Tremendous to see you both. Thank you very much. Absolute pleasure to have you on. Mustafa, I'll start with you, straight down the line, really. Have we imported backward ideologies?
I would be a little bit careful with using the words backward ideologies. I think it only serves to stoke emotion and further heighten tensions. It allows communities to start resisting attempts at reform or social change. And in addition, as far as importing backwards ideologies are concerned, it's not necessarily the case that these are practices in the country that have recently been imported as a result of the last 5 or 10 years of immigration. There are a lot of communities that have third or fourth gen immigrants that have been around for 50 or 60 years, but the practice is still widespread that has resulted in ghettoization everywhere. And so I'd be cautious
of... Expand on that then, sorry, before we go to Mr. Akunji. So you talk there about ghettoization. So instead of maybe saying that it's an importation of backward ideologies, is it a sign that things like multiculturalism or integration has failed?
I would I would certainly say that this poses that there are challenges to integration, and that in order for minority communities of any kind to fully integrate, you need the formation of a national identity, particularly in an open, pluralistic, high-trust society like the UK. And the prevalence of cultural marriages within pockets of communities, pockets of sub-communities all around the UK further entrenches kinship ties and inhibits the formation of a national identity.
OK. Yeah, Mr. Kunji, I'll throw it over to you now. I mean, a lot of people would say that this is not a traditionally British practice, I suppose, and that we have, largely speaking, imported this problem a little bit like FGM.
I'd say that it's very much the practice amongst the royal class. Cousin marriage is something that's pretty exclusively, predominantly practiced amongst the royal families of Europe and even Britain fairly recently. So I wouldn't say it's outside of the British culture, but I have to ask, what is the backward ideology you are identifying? What is it that is...
Well, it's an ideology or a culture where cousin marriage is both common and potentially actively encouraged.
Sure. So if you want to talk about Islam doesn't prohibit cousin marriage. Christianity doesn't prohibit cousin marriage. Christianity is 500 years older than Islam.
Yeah.
Judaism doesn't.
I suspect whilst I appreciate the line that you're going down here, I suppose really it's about realistically where is it more commonly practiced at the moment. So, for example, you end up in places like Birmingham, where we are employing specialist inbreeding nurses and incest nurses, and that is mostly to do with the British, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi communities there.
When we say incest, we're talking about people who've married their sisters or their parents. So that seems to be already an illegal practice that's being practiced, enough to require the need for such specialist nurses. But if the issue is harm, and as you raise the figures, that in terms of certain congenital disorders, there's a thing from 3% to 6%. It's a concern. But then are you then going to ban women over 35 conceiving children? Because the rate of Down syndrome amongst women who give birth in their 20s is 1 in 1,250. But if you are over 35, the rate is 1 in 85. So it's a far bigger problem in terms of women giving birth in their later years and the risk to the NHS and the carrying of those sort of congenital disorders than anything to do with cousin marriage is. And actually, about 20% of women who give birth nowadays are between 35 and 40. So if we're talking about solving a problem, which is a pressure on our NHS because of the horrible effects of congenital disorders, the bigger problem is conception and in the age group of 30 to 40.
OK. All right, fine. I'm going to play a little clip now, and this was originally from a Channel 4 documentary. I think most people will have seen this, which was done to highlight some of the damages that can be done as a result of first cousin marriage. So here's a little clip of it.
Mohsin has a rare genetic disease which is gradually destroying his body.
So it says there that in that clip, and that was obviously from a good few years ago now, but the statistic at the time, Mustafa, that Channel 4 used was that more than half of British Pakistanis marry their first cousin. Is that a problem?
I think that when propagated over multiple generations, it is a problem. And I mean, again, the argument is fairly simple. It's twofold. One is the sort of public health argument to reduce the burden on public resources, but also to improve the health of these often vulnerable and marginalized communities themselves. It is, in fact, in their interest to do so. What often causes a lot of the resistance to measures to reduce such sorts of cultural practices is the general impression that a lot of these communities get that the ban is being used as a cudgel, another cudgel of many other cudgels to beat them over the head with. And so a certain degree of sensitivity needs to be maintained when engaging these communities so that they don't shut themselves off. But nevertheless, it remains the case that it is in the public health interest, and further that it will help fashion the formation of a national identity, a pluralistic identity, rather than the sort of cementing of blood and clan ties in a lot of these often quite small geographic locales, like Bradford or Birmingham.
OK. All right. Look, thank you very, very much, both of you. It's tremendous to have you both on. It's a real pleasure to see you both again, and I hope that we can talk again in future. That is the chairman of the Iqbal House, which is a think tank in part anyway, focused on multiculturalism, Mustafa Varsi, and the lawyer and broadcaster Mohammed Akunji. Right, coming up at 10 p.m, we're going to go live to Las Vegas, where Nigel Farage is speaking. So, a couple of things. He's going to announce a policy for 18 to 30-year-olds, so watch out for that. And, presumably, at some point, stick the boot into the PM as well. But before all of that, yes, well, we're going to run out of water, apparently, in 10 years because of mass migration. And we haven't got enough police officers because of mass migration. And our population is booming because of mass migration. Not just my words, no. These are new studies that came out today. So we'll talk about that. But, of course, before that...
I have to say, when I was with the staff, they were equally excited about the e-gates and being able to go on their holidays.
What a load of rubbish that turned out to be, but the mainstream media is now only just cottoning on to it. Is it proof that the establishment media is run by a load of rabid Remainers? Stay tuned.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some serious heat across parts of Spain towards the end of this week. We could top out over 40 degrees across parts of the south. A little cooler in Madeira, where it could be quite cloudy on Friday. Plenty of warm sunshine for Portugal and Spain, and generally pretty good in Italy as well. The heavy showers clearing away from the Balkans, but we are going to see more showers moving in across Greece through Friday and Saturday. That heat could trigger some thunderstorms in Spain and southern France into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather coming to you from the Met Office. Now the weather's looking pretty mixed as we go through the next 24 hours or so. Yes, there will be some rain around, but not everywhere. The driving force for the changeable weather is an area of low pressure. It's tracked across the north of the UK, now pushing away towards Scandinavia. But we do have a trailing front lingering across us. This is going to bring a bit more cloud, a bit more rain across parts of northern England, maybe southern Scotland and into Wales overnight. Also a swathe of wetter weather feeding into northern Scotland, some heavy bursts of rain likely there. Otherwise, some drier, perhaps even clear weather, but with some warm, humid air around. Temperatures not dropping much at all. It's going to be a pretty mild start today for many of us tomorrow. A mild start, yes, and also a bit of a wet one for some places across parts of central Scotland. A fair bit of rain first thing, although across the far north of mainland Scotland, quickly turning bright and sunny. Also a fair amount of cloud across southern parts of Scotland into Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain. East is best for the sunshine across northern England. Further west, a bit more cloud, some rain, and similar across parts of Wales, and maybe in parts of the southwest could see a few spots of rain. But the best chance of sunshine through tomorrow, that will be towards the southeast. Good deal of blue skies breaking through, and here with that warm, humid air, I'm expecting temperatures to rise, highs of around 24 or 25 Celsius here. Also some decent sunshine across the far north of Scotland, but in between there will be a few showery bursts around. A bit more cloud, some outbreaks of rain affecting parts of northern England and into Wales. Then as we go into the weekend, a bit of a northwest-southeast split. Some wet, blustery weather feeding in across many parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps into England and Wales towards the northwest, but further southeast, a greater chance of staying largely dry, often sunny and even warmer than tomorrow. We're looking at highs of around 25 or 26 Celsius before turning fresher by Sunday.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back. So, coming up, has mass immigration made us all less safe? But first, well, it only took them a week, but it's good to see that the establishment media has finally caught up with the reality of the Prime Minister's EU reset deal, announced last week. Get a load of this. So, at the time, he was keen to talk up one particular detail, wasn't he? Claiming that this deal, it was all about allowing Brits to use the e-gates at EU airports.
I have to say, when I was with the staff, they were equally excited about the e-gates and being able to go on their holidays, which they've obviously already planned, and not be in the horrendously long queues. So on both fronts, lower prices in places like Lidl and the e-gates so they can go on holiday more quickly.
What queues? What queues? The only queue I've experienced is trying to land back at Heathrow or Gatwick. But anyway, it emerged just hours after the deal was announced that individual EU member states would still be allowed to decide if Brits can use the e-gates. So I don't think it was really worth allowing the French to pillage our fishing waters. But it took newspapers like The Times a whole week to read the terms of Starmer's surrender deal and finally get round to reporting it properly. I'm joined now by former Deputy Chair of UKIP, it's Suzanne Evans. So there was a whole host of newspapers and online news outlets that for some reason today decided to point out the fact that actually we're not getting anything when it comes to the e-gates. Why did it take them so long? Is it because they're full of Ramonas?
Well, I think it is, Patrick. You know, when I was Deputy Chair of UKIP and when I was on the board of Vote Leave during the EU referendum campaign, I was frequently going on TV and radio programmes, and it was usually me against at least two other Ramonas. It was never one-on-one. And I think this is their whole attitude, really. I mean, why didn't they smell a rat on the 19th of May when the UK Prime Minister put out a tweet and Keir Starmer made that statement saying that we'd be able to go on our holidays quicker? I mean, I remember on the Twitter feed, he actually put a photograph of people queuing at an airport before this deal, and then after this deal, a picture of a mum and a dad and a toddler walking on a beach. I mean, it was lunacy, but nobody thought to question it, because that's what the press doesn't do, unfortunately. I'm afraid it is a bunch of mostly people who voted Remain. There are very few people who voted Brexit, I think, among the mainstream media. And so now it's taken them 10 days to catch up with the reality of this, is actually that Keir Starmer lied. That there's no EU-wide deal on e-gates in the EU reset. And in any case, it's not up to the European Union. The fact is that whether or not you can use e-gates is up to, in most cases, the independent country, but also the independent airport. So they're not available at all airports as well. So it's complete nonsense. And I don't know, I just don't understand why any journalist worth half their salt wouldn't have realised this from the get-go.
Well, quite. The irony, of course, was when he announced this deal, I happened to be on holiday at the time in a European Union country, having breezed straight on through their customs there and, like most times, not actually faced any queue despite limited e-gate access. But it was obvious to every single person with a brain in their head that they would not be able to enforce this. And it was Keir Starmer's big thing. He decided, and his advisors decided, that the big sell they were going to use for this EU surrender deal was the e-gates. And now that's unravelled. So what else have they got? They've said, well, actually, we're going to have access to the EU £130 billion defence pact. Well, now the French are blocking us from taking that. So the only two things he really came away with from this are now both, it looks like, not going to happen.
But that's so typical, isn't it? I mean, we haven't had a leader who's been prepared to stand up to the European Union for a very, very long time. I mean, the last one was Margaret Thatcher, in all honesty. You know, I couldn't help thinking at the time that anyone who was prepared to say, oh, great, we can get through the airport faster, yet we prepared to roll over our fishermen, for instance, who've got to wait another 12 years to take back control of our waters, frankly, is a very, very useful idiot for the European Union. And frankly, in my view, shouldn't be a journalist at all. If you're that fickle and shallow that you think a faster queue at the airport is worth giving up our sovereignty and our democracy and our independence for, then, well, pity help you, frankly. You shouldn't be having a column on a national newspaper. That's my view. I mean, but again, this is just the latest in a, well, not the latest even, long line of lies from Keir Starmer. It really is quite frightening, the amount of gaslighting that he's doing for the British people. And we've had it again today, haven't we, with Chagos. China absolutely welcoming this deal with open arms. Yet Starmer categorically said that it was hostile states like China, Russia, and Iran that were opposed to the Chagos deal. So another lie.
One of the other things, Suzanne, sorry, let me just cut in here because I want to get this in and we're a bit pressed for time, was that the other thing, so the third thing that Keir Starmer hailed, Keir Starmer's third pillar, if you will, for selling out British fishermen and also pushing us back towards the mercy of more European cause, was youth mobility and Erasmus. Now, I happen to think that's a lie as well, because what I think that is something dressed up as, hey, young people, they can go and experience a bit of paella in Spain, you can come over here and get mugged in London. Actually, what it is, I think, is the importation of cheap foreign labour for the hospitality sector.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we have so many young people in this country who are unemployed, desperate for a job. I've spoken to them umpteen times. You know, you just can't get that starter job in retail or hospitality. And yet, of course, in many countries in Europe, there are people there's a much greater number of unemployed young people who would be desperate to come over here. And it's not a tit for tat, because like it or not, the fact is English is the universal language. So why it might be very easy for somebody who's learned English practically from birth in Spain, France, Germany, Romania, wherever it might be, to come over here and get a job, it's not so easy for a young British person to go overseas because they simply haven't got the language skills. It's just a fact of life. We could all complain about the fact that we Brits perhaps don't know enough languages, but that's the way it is. British people, once again, who are going to miss out.
Suzanne, thank you very, very much. Suzanne Evans there, former Deputy Chair of UKIP. I suppose at this point I should say that Keir Starmer thinks it's a tremendous deal and he wants you to all think that too. Coming up at 10 p.m.
Minister Farage, Nigel Farage, has 5 MPs. You've got 403. Are you panicking because Reform is so far ahead in the polls, it seems? Is he living rent-free in your brain?
Let's get ready to rumble in Las Vegas. Why? Because we're going to take Nigel Farage live in Vegas. We believe he's going to announce a big policy for the 18 to 30s and presumably at some point get stuck into the PM. You won't want to miss that. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We are just moments away from taking Nigel Farage live in Las Vegas. But first, ministers have warned today that mass immigration means areas of Britain face running out of drinking water in just 10 years' time. The government has stepped in to take control of the planning process now for 2 major reservoirs, the first for more than 30 years. But that comes after the head of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, warned that he does not have enough police officers to keep London safe, and he's come out and said the quiet part out loud. That's due to a massive boom in the capital's population. In fact, London's population has grown by 1 million people in the last 15 years, almost entirely due to mass immigration. Nationally, last year saw the UK's largest population increase on record. I'm joined now by political commentator Mike Jones. Mike, thank you very much. Always an absolute pleasure to see you. So no drinking water and no police because of mass immigration.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You know, we were assured that public services, including police, prisons and reservoirs, would be able to keep up with mass immigration. But of course, that was always a fantasy. You know, scaling up police and water services takes time, it takes money, it takes actual infrastructure. And by the time that shortages are actually identified, you're already living, you know, in a country with a ballooning population, a growing criminal underclass, a shrinking police presence, and obviously more demand for vital services like water. So, you know, this was entirely predictable. We don't have the planning system in place to actually cope with this. And even if we did have the ideal planning system, I doubt very much whether it would be able to keep up with the numbers. So, you know, ultimately the political class, they've made a rod for their own back. And, you know, we're going to pay the consequences very soon, in fact. So, yeah, it's a horrible situation.
I don't think it's going to do wonders for societal cohesion if you have to start rationing your drinking water because of the amount of people we've just welcomed into Britain.
Well, yeah, precisely. I mean, you know, obviously there are problems with the planning system. We could build more reservoirs. Obviously, we do need to build more reservoirs, particularly by 2050. You know, we have antiquated pipes from the Victorian era. At the current rate, that's going to take about 2,000 years to completely replace. It's pretty crazy. But, you know, even putting the planning and public policy issue to one side, you know, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You know,
yeah.
Don't make the situation worse for yourself. Do not keep the pedal to the metal, mass immigration.
Yeah, is that what your solution to this would be when we look at, OK, we've done the drinking water side of it. If we look at the crime stats and Sir Mark Rowley there, I don't know, you know, what's been going on with him recently, but he appears to be maybe getting increasingly more right-wing, but saying that actually he can't police the capital city, and that is because they don't have enough police officers to deal with population growth. Population growth fuelled, of course, by mass immigration. Is mass immigration making us more lawless?
I would say so. I think that's quite a sort of intuitive, logical position to take. I mean, Rowley's statement is quite stark. You know, the Metropolitan Police need about 1 billion extra funding just to match the number of officers it's had relative to London's population in 2010. And, you know, as you say, that's been driven predominantly by mass immigration. And let's be honest, though, it's not just about numbers. I mean, the police have abandoned the Bobby on the beat model that you had introduced through the Peel reforms, you know, centuries ago. These days, they have a mostly sort of reactive policing service where they spend a lot of time behind their desks. You know, they're reacting to, you know, online hate speech and non-hate crimes and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And they're not actually patrolling the streets. So there's a sort of qualitative element to it there. The policing model itself doesn't actually work. But when you take policing numbers into it as well, that makes the situation much worse. You know, mass immigration is just adding fuel to the fire.
But it's also just look at the demon. I mean, you alluded to it in, I think, one of the first sentences you said. You know, for how long were people that were saying things like, at this rate of immigration, we're going to run out of housing, we're going to run out of school places, we're not going to be able to see a GP, our infrastructure isn't going to be able to cope, and now it's all happening and people are finally waking up to it and actually saying the quiet part out loud. Well, I'm sorry, but we did have a chance to sort this out a while ago, and now it's going to be like pushing a massive boulder uphill to try to get this sorted. But Mike, thank you very, very much. I know that people with minds like yours will be working furiously behind the scenes to try and come up with solutions to this, so it's fantastic. Mike Jones there, political commentator. Well, very, very shortly, we're going to have a bit of this.
Speed of the decline in your popularity is historically unprecedented. Isn't this speech today an admission that you have failed and Nigel Farage understands voters better than you?
It's Keir Starmer versus Nigel Farage, round 2. We're going to cross live to Las Vegas, where Nigel Farage is apparently going to stick the boot into the Prime Minister. He has got a policy as well, I believe, specifically for 18 to 30-year-olds, so watch out for that. And Robert Jenrick has taken fare dodgers to task.
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back to the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay?
You'll never guess what he's being accused of doing there. So Channel 4 and LBC, I would regard as being, largely speaking, both left-wing news outlets, have decided that the main story here is not people recklessly, lawlessly not paying fares. The main story here is that Robert Jenrick went into a London Underground without permission to film. Oh, yeah, we'll just tell you what, we'll all just keep burying our heads in the sand. No, we won't. Not on my show. I'll see you in a sec.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather coming to you from the Met Office. Now the weather's looking pretty mixed as we go through the next 24 hours or so. Yes, there will be some rain around, but not everywhere. The driving force for the changeable weather is an area of low pressure. It's tracked across the north of the UK, now pushing away towards Scandinavia. But we do have a trailing front lingering across us. This is going to bring a bit more cloud, a bit more rain across parts of northern England, maybe southern Scotland and into Wales overnight. Also a swathe of wetter weather feeding into northern Scotland, some heavy bursts of rain likely there. Otherwise, some drier, perhaps even clear weather, but with some warm, humid air around. Temperatures not dropping much at all. It's going to be a pretty mild start today for many of us tomorrow. A mild start, yes, and also a bit of a wet one for some places across parts of central Scotland. A fair bit of rain first thing, although across the far north of mainland Scotland, quickly turning bright and sunny. Also a fair amount of cloud across southern parts of Scotland into Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain. East is best for the sunshine across northern England. Further west, a bit more cloud, some rain, and similar across parts of Wales, and maybe in parts of the southwest could see a few spots of rain. But the best chance of sunshine through tomorrow, that will be towards the southeast. Good deal of blue skies breaking through, and here with that warm, humid air, I'm expecting temperatures to rise, highs of around 24 or 25 Celsius here. Also some decent sunshine across the far north of Scotland, but in between there will be a few showery bursts around, a bit more cloud, some outbreaks of rain affecting parts of northern England and into Wales. Then as we go into the weekend, a bit of a northwest-southeast split. Some wet, blustery weather feeding in across many parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps into England and Wales towards the northwest, but further southeast, a greater chance of staying largely dry, often sunny and even warmer than tomorrow. We're looking at highs of around 25 or 26 Celsius before turning fresher by Sunday.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because the failure is... You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
I've got Peter from The Guardian.
Do you think one of the problems is that Nigel Farage can approximate talking like a human being, where you just resort to talking points and dodging questions?
Sir Keir Starmer's lost Peter from The Guardian.
The speed of the decline in your popularity is historically unprecedented. Isn't this speech today an admission that you have failed and Nigel Farage understands voters better than you?
He's lost Harry from the BBC.
This is a speech that was very defensive, wasn't it?
Oh, he's lost Amanda from Sky News.
Minister Farage, Nigel Farage has 5 MPs, you've got 403. Are you panicking because Reform is so far ahead in the polls, it seems? Is he living rent-free in your brain?
Oh, and he's been stung by GB News' Christopher Hope, yes, but...
The reason I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage.
Any moment now, we are expecting to hear from this man to give a live press conference. Yes, buckle up, because Nigel Farage is going to be taken to the stage in Las Vegas, believe it or not, very shortly. He's got a policy announcement for the 18 to 30-year-olds, and apparently he's probably going to get stuck into the PM as well. But also tonight...
Excuse me, do you think it's all right not to pay? Seriously, why do you go back through the barrier and pay? Do you want to go back and pay like everybody else? Do you think it's all right not to pay? Why don't you go back and pay?
I love it, absolutely love it. Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick there, exposing tube fare dodgers. I will, of course, have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages first, with my top panel, former Tory MP Jane Stevenson, Conservative peer Lord Bailey and ex-Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer. And what's this?
Oh, Castle, oh.
Get ready, Britain, here we go. Nigel Farage is live next.
Patrick, thank you very much. The top stories. Well, Nigel Farage cannot be trusted. That was the message of Sir Keir Starmer as he took on Reform UK's economic policy in a speech earlier today. The Prime Minister accused the party of gambling the nation's finances. It follows a speech made by Nigel Farage on Tuesday in which he accused the Prime Minister of having no passion. In response to the Prime Minister's speech, Mr Farage said, "In the last 24 hours, I have been attacked by Starmer, Badenoch, Swinney and just about everybody else except for the voters. We must be winning." The Prime Minister said Reform UK's policy is like having Liz Truss all over again. Elsewhere, a 53-year-old man has been charged after a car was driven into a crowd at Liverpool FC's Trophy Parade. Paul Doyle from the West Derby area of Liverpool has been charged with 7 offences, 6 charges related to grievous bodily harm and 1 count of dangerous driving. Thousands of fans were gathered in Liverpool city centre on Monday to celebrate the Premier League champions' title win when a car struck a crowd. Police said a total of 79 people were injured, with the youngest aged 9, the oldest being a 78-year-old. 7 people remain in hospital and Mr Doyle appears in court tomorrow morning. Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate will return to the UK to defend themselves against charges of rape and other offences, a lawyer representing the siblings has said. 38-year-old Andrew Tate faces 10 charges, including rape, actual bodily harm, human trafficking and controlling prostitution for gain relating to 3 women. His brother Tristan Tate, who's 36, faces 11 charges relating to 1 woman, including rape, actual bodily harm and human trafficking. The charges were authorised in January last year, but full details have only been released now. The brothers deny all charges. Israel has signed off on the latest US ceasefire proposal for Gaza before it was sent to the terror group Hamas, according to White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel accepts a US ceasefire plan for Gaza. A Hamas official has said this evening the Israeli response to the US ceasefire plan fails to meet their demands. However, the proposal is still under discussion, according to the group. The news comes after Israel says it will establish 22 new settlements in the occupied West Bank. Several already exist as outposts built without government authorization, but will now be made legal under Israeli law. The move could deepen divisions with some allies who have threatened sanctions over such moves. President Trump's global tariffs are temporarily reinstated after a court agreed to pause a ruling blocking the sweeping trade levies while it considers the White House's appeal. Earlier, the Trump administration threatened to go to the Supreme Court tomorrow if it was unable to block the tariffs ruling. The court accused the US president of overstepping his authority after utilising emergency powers to enforce the tariffs. The president claimed the matter was a national emergency and didn't get approval from Congress. And finally, some little breaking news in sports to finish with. Luke Humphries has won the Premier League in darts after beating Luke Littler 11-8 in the final at the O2 Arena in London. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Well, any minute now, I'm going to take you live to Las Vegas because Reform UK leader Nigel Farage is about to take to the stage. Well, earlier today, Sir Keir Starmer gave a complete press conference entirely designed around Nigel Farage. I believe that Nigel Farage is about to announce a major policy for the 18 to 30-year-olds and probably have a thing or two to say about our Prime Minister. He's at a Bitcoin conference, a cryptocurrency conference in Las Vegas. Let's go to him now.
News to the media. You have some details I think you want to share.
We did actually just get the audio there. I think we can go straight back to Las Vegas.
Well, I spoke at the Amsterdam conference a couple of years ago. I was advocating in 2020 that people should have crypto, have a bit of Bitcoin as part of their portfolio. All right, I know some of you were there years before me, I get that. but I've been consistent, and we're now taking that on. And Reform UK, the party that I'm leading, as of today, we are 9 points ahead in the opinion polls. We have Keir Starmer, our socialist Prime Minister, is terrified. Do you know, he mentioned me 16 times today in a speech. I'm living rent-free inside his head. I'm thrilled to be here today, but to announce that rather than just words, we have put together, and this is exclusive for today, the Crypto Assets and Digital Finance Bill.
Months of work, ladies and gentlemen.
We will campaign for this, and we'll put it in place when we win the next general election. And what we're saying is bring crypto and digital assets in from the cold. Have a capital gains rate of 10%. And that means, you know, if taxes are reasonable, people will pay them. We're going to have a Bitcoin digital reserve in the Bank of England. And we are going to pass legislation that says that no bank can close your account because you're trading in legal crypto or digital products.
No more debanking, ladies and gentlemen.
So yeah, we are taking it very, very seriously. And you know, it's really interesting. I mean, 7 million people in Britain have got crypto assets. 1 in 4 people under 30 have got crypto assets. And yet our outdated Labour and Conservative governments have done nothing in this space at all. And what I want to do when we win the next election is bring us into the 21st century. We are going to launch in Britain a crypto revolution. We're going to make London one of the major trading centres of the world. We're deadly serious, and here it is.
And again, he's been saying this since 2020. You have your own experience with being debanked, but we're going to get to that in just a moment. One of the things I want to ask, you know, we've seen a number of politicians on this stage from the United States, including the Vice President of the United States, speaking here today, bullish on Bitcoin, bullish on the crypto space. Is it this, you're seeing this happen in the United States, is this the impetus for you now saying we need to take action in the UK, we need to do something now?
I think what this administration has done to embrace this whole area, to give real oxygen and real energy to the whole digital world is nothing short of fantastic. And we, in my country, we tend to be a little bit behind. You know, America has all the new ideas. They take a few years to cross the pond, and you send us many good things. And what you're doing in this space right now, through this administration, is good. You also send us bad things, because you sent us woke. But you know what? We've got you back, because we've sent you Prince Harry in return, all right?
Yeah. We appreciate that. Quite a personality. We appreciate it, Nigel. One of the things I want to touch on, you're obviously well known for the work that you did in initiating Brexit. Very, very impactful. You talk a lot about national sovereignty. Bitcoin is about individual sovereignty. Could you talk a little bit about the overlap here?
Well, I mean, I was, you know, in the early 90s, I saw the emergence of the European Union. I saw the emergence of these globalist structures that were designed to take away our democracy, to remove our ability to elect people who really influenced our law and hand them up to a sort of global bureaucracy. And so I fought against it. And it took me a quarter of a century to get Brexit, but we did it. We voted out. And you know something? If we were still in the European Union, this would not even be possible. So I believe in national sovereignty, but I also worry that government right across the Western world has got too big. It interferes and tries to control virtually every aspect of our lives. We've touched on the banking industry already, who in many cases have behaved appallingly. So I believe in individual sovereignty as well. And Bitcoin is the ultimate freedom from big government. So yeah, absolutely. I see the two as being absolutely consistent with each other.
When it comes to bureaucratic oversight, government surveillance, we have CBDCs coming down the pipeline. I think in the UK, they call it what, Britcoin? They like to get cheeky over there in the UK, right? So Britcoin versus Bitcoin. So we're not fooled here very easily at the Bitcoin conference. Can we talk a little bit about the dangers of CBDCs and why it's so important that something like Bitcoin exists?
So the only thing the last Conservative government did in this space was to open up a department within our central bank, the Bank of England, to spend money getting us ready for a Bitcoin central bank digital currency. This would be the ultimate form of tyranny. And I can tell you, as I go around the country, people have woken up to what's going on here. And when we win the next election, there'll be a CBDC over my dead body.
We heard very similar rhetoric from Trump. I was actually not on this exact stage, but on the stage in Nashville in 2024. He understood that he didn't underestimate the audience. He didn't say, oh, I'm not going to talk about these things, these abstract things, CBDCs. I'm not going to underestimate them, and I'm not going to pretend like I know better. He listened to what was important to people. What has that process been like in the UK? And please talk a little bit about how the Reform Party is surprising people in the polls.
Well, I mean, 2 points there. The first is there has been, I think Rishi Sunak, when he was briefly Prime Minister, made one speech about the crypto space and about the fact that the City of London, used to be a global trading financial centre. One speech and then did nothing. The Labour government, we got 25 men and women in our cabinet. Not a single one has ever worked in private business. They don't even understand this space. So we are kind of, with a new political party, with the new kids on the block, we are anti-establishment, we are disruptors, and that's an important word, because when it's not working, it needs to be disrupted. And we're the only ones talking about this. But what will happen, I promise you, as a result of me being on this stage tonight with you, making this exclusive announcement, is there's now going to be a huge national debate. Why is government not doing this? And you know something? We got Brexit even though I wasn't in government, but I forced them into it. It may well be we'll get some of this done even before the next election. And in terms of your second comment, well, nothing like what has happened in the last year has ever happened in the history of our country before. I retired after Brexit back in 2020. I was doing TV with GBNews, coming to America. I've got a friend in America who's done very well, a chap called Donald. He's done ever so well.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I think you probably know him quite well. And I was retired, but I came back into politics because I just felt my country, I felt the whole Western world was losing its way. We'd forgotten the Judeo-Christian values upon which our civilization had been built. And, well, we have. And so I came back, it was June the 3rd last year. I said, right, I'm going to come back, I'm going to have another go at this, and I'm going to base the whole thing around the key principles of family, community, and country. They're the things that I care about, and I bet they're the things you care about as well. And here we are, today's opinion polls, we're 9 points ahead of Labour. And the Conservative Party, well, they're called Conservative, but they haven't governed as Conservative. Their support's falling off a cliff. So there is a genuine political revolution going on in Britain, and don't underestimate it. It is going to happen, believe me.
We appreciate that. As a member of parliament, we have this act now. I know the general election is, I think, a few years away, right? 2029. What does that roadmap look like to get there now? What other things would you like to see happen before that time?
So for us to win, we have to clear a series of hurdles. The first one was on May the 1st this year, when we had the English counties up for election, and we won it by a country mile. We came first by a country mile. Next year, we've got elections for the Scottish and Welsh parliaments, devolved parliaments, and I believe we can win in Wales and probably come second in Scotland. So we have to keep clearing hurdles every year. We've built our party membership, we're building our credibility. So yeah, I mean, look, this is not going to be easy. The establishment are not going to give us an easy ride. I've no doubt there will be alternative CVs of me published. They'll say the most awful things about me. Trouble is, half of them will be true, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
I think, as Peter McCormack said, some of the things they say about you make you the fun person that you are.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm not in politics for a career. I'm in politics to make a change and make a difference. I'm a normal human being. I've got my good points, I've got my weaknesses. But what's wrong with that? Isn't that what we want? Don't we want politicians that are real and like us and live their lives? I've done many things over the years. You know, I worked for 20 years for American companies trading commodities. I worked for Drexel Burnham Lambert back in the 1980s, which some things good, some don't. You know, I've been a commodity trader, I've been a radio host, I've been a TV host, I've been in politics, I've been doing financial market newsletters. I've done many, many things. I've got a very broad experience, and frankly, I think I'm much better qualified than a bunch of Oxford-educated human rights lawyers to run the country.
And there's one thing I would add to that, if you don't mind. It's that you did travel around, you did talk to people, you did listen to people. Even when you drafted this, what you just shared with us earlier, you know, you spoke with people from the industry, you spoke with people familiar with policy, you're willing to listen, you're not saying that you know everything and that you're going to dictate from the top down.
Far from it, and we've been in touch. I mean, you know, the Bitcoin guys in the UK have been in touch, sending us stuff. I'm one of the few political figures, I genuinely go out and meet people. I'll be walking through the high streets in Scotland on Monday, and some people are rude. Well, fine, let them be rude, I don't care. But, and I always joke that the best place to meet people in Britain is go to the pub, because every pub is a parliament. People go into the pub for a drink and talk about life. So I think being a good listener is really, really important, and I think people underestimate Trump on this. Trump does actually listen to experts and what people have to say.
He does. So I was in the White House for the crypto summit, and we sat there, and you know, there were lots of people from the industry there, and I know that he had consulted with people, as you just said, with Bitcoin Policy UK. We had the vice president giving a shout out to the Bitcoin Policy Institute. So we see a lot of this synergy, right? Listening to people who know better. I just have to ask you, this is a personal question actually, why is it so difficult for politicians to listen, right? Don't you want to represent the people, the underdogs, the people that aren't listened to as much? Doesn't that just seem like an obvious thing to do?
Oh, I think most people in politics think they know better than ordinary people, rather like the bureaucrats, rather like this whole globalist class who meet at Davos every year and seem to think they know how best we can run our own lives. And kind of what we're saying with Bitcoin, kind of what we're saying with all these things is, we will make our own decisions. We will have our own successes and our own failures, and the hell with you, we don't want you interfering with us in any way at all.
You came to viscerally understand how important Bitcoin is when you were personally debanked for very dubious reasons, not very hardcore reasons. There was no real good reason why they said you can no longer have access to your money in a bank account. Can you talk a little bit about how that's informed your passion for Bitcoin and digital assets?
Well, I mean, I am the highest profile case of debanking that's probably ever been seen in the United Kingdom. And it was, I've got to be honest, a very, very scary experience. Very scary experience. I went to 10 banks, all of whom refused me an account. It's kind of like they're trying to force me out of the country. But I fought back. I fought back publicly, and I won. I won, but I was able, through my media contacts and my profile, to have that fight and win it. Most folk aren't. You know, I mean, even last year in the United Kingdom, 400,000 people were debanked.
Primary reasons? What was the reason for this?
They don't have to give reasons. They don't have to give reasons. But one of the reasons is, say you transfer a bit of money into crypto.
Coinbase or a crypto exchange?
Oh, money going to Coinbase can be a reason for them closing down your account. That's why this legislation will make it illegal for any bank ever to do that to anybody ever again.
You can stand up. I see some people standing up. That's good.
Yeah, well, nobody.
That.
I mean, the thing about debanking was, I mean, you know, as soon as I said I'd been debanked, other people stood up and said they'd been debanked too. They were too frightened to before. It was almost like coming out, you know, saying I've been debanked. It's been a massive issue on both sides of the pond. And in America, political debanking has been going on now for years and years and years. It is absolutely disgusting. It plays no part in a free, open, democratic society. And no wonder so many people are going for Bitcoin and going for crypto, because they can't close you down, and that is the ultimate freedom.
Super important perspective. I want to rewind back a little bit to you going to pubs, talking with people. I remember watching videos of fishermen, hearing from fishermen in the UK and other people who are just working in smaller towns in the UK. You know, oftentimes I think sometimes you say the quiet part out loud. Sometimes people say these things, you're saying it out loud, and then maybe they're comfortable coming to you saying, like, you know what, I actually agree with you, but I can't say that for this reason or the other. Can you talk a little bit about that if you don't mind?
Well, I think free speech is a vital element of living in an open democratic society. I mean, you know, we fought world wars. We fought world wars so that we could agree to disagree. And the modern phenomenon that we've seen is, of course, cancellation. Not just I disagree with you, but I will do my best to close you down. And the extreme left have been very, very successful at this. And one of the problems has been, in this country too, conservative cowardice. That so-called conservatives haven't fought against it because they don't like nasty things being said about them on X or Facebook or whatever it may be. And there is a concern in my country that we now have two-tier justice, two-tier policing, led by our Prime Minister, two-tier care. And J.D. Vance, you know, is genuinely worried about what is happening to free speech, what is happening to liberty in the United Kingdom. And frankly, you know, I should be able to offend you.
I prefer it, actually, yeah.
Well, let's get started.
Let's go.
No, I should be able to offend you. I should be able to say things that you don't like, that you fundamentally disagree with. But it should be my God-given birthright to be able to do that without being closed down. And we have, in the UK, a major free speech problem. And I tell you what, the silent majority know that it's wrong. The silent majority want it corrected. We have a woman called Lucy Connolly who's been given a 31-month prison sentence for saying something unpleasant on social media in the wake of the horrific murders of 3 young girls in Southport. She should not be in prison, period. And while she's in prison, we're letting out on early release people who've convicted vile sexual attacks. We've got a two-tier country. Maybe that's part of the reason why reform is doing so well in the polls right now. We've got to get back to the right values, back to the values of the forefathers that built our great countries.
Amazing, and just logic in general. I think we need to embrace logic again. If you become Prime Minister, what will realistically...
What do you mean if?
That's it, I apologize. When you become Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen,
negative,
my apologies.
Isn't he?
Who put me up here? Why'd they have me do this? Anyway.
Sorry.
When you become Prime Minister, and hopefully we're here sitting on stage 4 years from now talking about how you're the Prime Minister of the UK, what is realistically in your power to do when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto assets? Now, I say that because we're seeing Trump, he signed an executive order on creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve, lots of other really progressive bills being put through the House and Senate right now. There's some friction, right? Senate Democrats are stopping a lot of the bills, even for stablecoins, something that would benefit the United States. I'm not as familiar with the British system of government. I will familiarize myself with more now that we have you running for president to be prime minister in the next few years. But what is realistically in your power once you're in power?
What is in my power now is to change the whole debate. And my appearance with you on stage is going to spark a massive national debate. There are many people now live watching this in the United Kingdom. I'm sure the Labour and Conservative parties will say, oh dear, why didn't we think of that? So I think in the short term, we can change at least the national argument. I made the point already that 1 in 4 youngsters already has a crypto or digital asset of, and it's important to include those as well in this whole debate. In government, you have to have a majority in the House of Commons. You have to have a majority of MPs by winning the individual districts, constituencies. And once you've done that, you have a mandate, you can pretty much do within reason what you want. So, you know, this isn't going to happen overnight. I wish the election was sooner than 2029, but it gives us a long time to build up the activist base, what I call the People's Army. The People's Army of folk who want real fundamental change. The People's Army who say, we want politicians not who just want to be Prime Minister or have a ministerial car, but actually want to affect real, genuine, radical change. And I'm a radical. I mean, I am, you know, I'm probably the most disliked human being by the political class in Britain that has been for over 100 years. And you know what? If they hate me, but increasingly the people love me, I reckon I'm in the right place.
Nigel, we're winding down. I just want to say thank you so much again for flying across the Atlantic to do this with us. But we were talking backstage about one last quite exciting announcement that you have to make. So I want to give you the floor to let the audience know what else you have.
Well, thank you. The other thing I'm going to announce tonight, which we've held back just for you, Frank, on this conference, is that as of now, provided you are an eligible UK donor, you can go to reformparty.uk, and as of now, we are the first political party in Britain who can accept donations in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So once again, we're being innovative. We're way behind you in America, but as of now, people with Bitcoin can give us money, provided they're eligible, and it's all part of what we are. And my message to the British public, my message particularly to young people, is help us to help you bring our country properly into the 21st century. Let's recognize that crypto, Bitcoin, digital assets are here to stay. And it's really funny because when I first advocated this 5 years ago, I had the Financial Times, the governor of the Bank of England, all saying the whole thing was a Ponzi scheme, you'd lose all your money. And it just goes to show the establishment nearly always, all through history, gets pretty much everything wrong. It's all about disruptors, it's all about innovators, it's all about freedom fighters. And I have to say, I might be here today before a predominantly American audience, but you know what, folks? We're all part of the same movement for individual freedom, for liberty, for being the masters of our own destiny. And I'm very, very proud and happy that you asked me to come. I've loved every minute of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a minute left. I think he deserves a standing applause for that time. So, Nigel, feel free to give him a last final word, but I think you said it perfectly there. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. A complete pleasure to have you here. We look forward to doing this again, hopefully the next few years, and also when he becomes the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
I will come back. I'll come back whether I'm Prime Minister or not. I will come back. I'll be here.
Give him a hand. We'll hold him up here. We got the champion here, Nigel Farage, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We have some great guests coming up on the stage. Up next, I think we have Lynn Alden, then Jack Mahlers, and then we have Michael Saylor, and then the one and only Ross Ulbricht to close it out. So everybody stay where you're seated. We'll be right back after this.
Well, that was Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, going big in Las Vegas there. Let me try to summarise some of the key points that he's mentioned there. So there'll be no debanking under Reform for having a crypto portfolio or putting your money into crypto, into Bitcoin, things like that. He wants to massively push back on that. He says that this is the best way to protect your own personal liberties from either big government or the banking sector. In some other non-commercial news there, he said that family, community and country were the three major motivations for him, the three plinths that he was going to stand on with Reform UK. He says that we need to get back to the values of our forefathers. He also basically said that America has given us some good things, but they're also given us some bad things. He blamed America for importing woke. He did, however, say that we got our revenge by sending them Prince Harry, which I did think was rather funny. He teed off on Keir Starmer's Labour cabinet, saying that not a single one of them has got any proper experience in private business, and that shows. He also said it's time to end cancellation. We need to stop cancelling people. It is a God-given right to be able to offend somebody. In fact, he says we've fought wars over it, and he should be allowed to offend people if he wants, and indeed, in turn, be offended if people so wish. Difficult to know really where to start over that. A speech, I think, almost entirely designed, in part, the crypto bit, towards 18 to 30-year-olds. That's the market they're going for. And let me tell you what, something is happening out there. Something big is happening, especially amongst young men. 18 to 30-year-olds are going to the right. Has he struck gold there, do you think, Jay?
I think it was an interesting speech. I mean, he is a great disruptor. And I think that premise that government is always slow. I mean, there has been a Bank of England and Treasury discussion about having a digital British currency since 2023. But he is saying we need to open up, catch up with the rest of the world, open up more freedoms in banking. I think the debanking point is really valuable because we did see it used as a political weapon when he was debanked. So I think that is... I support that. Yeah,
is that right? Is he right, do you think, there, Sean, to, you know, come out and really push back against debanking? He made the point that he said, well, when he was debanked, he had a prominent media platform here at GBNews and in various different columns and just generally in the media, I suppose. Also a public presence and a voice. Therefore, that gave him power. Whereas your average little guy or woman was not able to push back on that. In fact, he said that once he decided to announce he'd been debanked, other people did it, and it was a bit like coming out, he said.
All of that's true. Debanking and also lawfare has been used as a weapon in British public life quite successfully, and I think that needs to stop. But my overall feeling on his speech was actually disappointment, because if that speech was about 18 to 21-year-old people in this country, he should be talking about cost of living, he should be talking about where they're going to live, he should be talking about training, he should be talking about employment, because the 18 to 21-year-olds who he thinks he's talking to, that's their biggest problem, not crypto. I bet if you surveyed 100 of them, probably 50 of them couldn't identify what crypto is. And for someone who said that family, community and country are his motivations, he talked a lot about himself.
And he's slagged Britain off.
There's a lot of me there, and what people really want to hear is us.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that he slagged Britain off. I'll just counter that by saying he identified that Lucy Connolly should not be in prison at all. He said that free speech in Britain is massively under threat and that J.D. Vance, the Vice President of America, is right to point that out. Is that slagging Britain off, Matthew, or is that him trying to better Britain by saying this is wrong and I want to change it?
Well, it wasn't that bit that I was referring to. There was a bit where actually no. I mean, it was a long intervention from him, so there was lots to get at. I mean, there were it was the bit where he said, "Oh, you know, we were a bit behind in Britain." It was all a bit sort of. I thought the tone was very weird. Look, I think this is the weirdest sort of intervention I've ever seen from a British politician of any party. He's gone on a paid speech to a Bitcoin conference to announce detailed policies about Bitcoin, whilst trying to claim that the Red Wall are his number one target. I'll let you into a secret. In the spoons that I go to, and I go to quite a few around the country, I've never overheard a conversation about Bitcoin. I mean, the number 10 will be delighted. Whatever you think about Keir Starmer's speech, he was in a glass factory in St Helens, and Nigel Farage is sitting with the tech bros talking about something that he's personally making money out of. That's a pretty extraordinary intervention.
Well, we've got a clip that we can play, which is of the amount of times Sir Keir Starmer mentioned Nigel Farage, right? So this is the amount of times that Sir Keir Starmer mentioned Nigel Farage during his speech earlier today. So I'm going to play this.
The reason I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Farage. Nigel 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 Farage.
Nigel Farage opened the speech there, the Q&A in Vegas, Jane, by saying that Keir Starmer, he is living in Keir Starmer's head rent-free. He was right
Absolutely. And I can hear someone putting a drum and bass track over the back of that. It'll be a meme. It'll be a meme by tomorrow. But
like the UKIP Calypso. Do you remember the UKIP Calypso?
Yes, I do. I think the Bitcoin thing, I don't know if it's me feeling very old, but I wonder how much it connects with average British people. That's the only thing, apart from young people.
I mean, I get, so I will just say to that, I think, yes, when it comes to the crypto thing, I've got no doubt in my mind. I'm not trying to offend anyone. By the way, I don't really get crypto, so I'm one of those people. I don't really get it. I know I should. Not my bag, OK? And there's probably a lot of obvious... But it's the other stuff he said, isn't it? It's everything else. Sean, he said, you know, that not a single member of the Labour cabinet has got any experience of private business.
True.
Why would you want to be led by those people?
All very true, and we have lots of politicians who are career politicians, but what he has to demonstrate is that he has some notion of government. What UKIP, here we go. What Reform are looking like now is a protest party, and the me attitude at a paid event, using it as a political platform, demonstrates that he doesn't understand government. That is not something that a government minister or someone who's serious about being Prime Minister...
Or is he just a disruptor? That's the thing. I mean, that was the point.
He's got cocky.
Listen, there's a difference between being disruptive. What he did around Brexit, disruptive, great stuff. Many people see it as a service to the country. What he did today actually demonstrated he doesn't understand the difference between being a protest party and being a party of government. Our system is complicated, and you have to demonstrate that you can work that system. For instance, the policy he had, even if you brought it to Parliament tomorrow, it'd probably be 3 years before it actually became law.
Yeah, but what he says there is, you know, he wants to bring Britain into the 21st century. You know, that was quite a big, bold thing. I mean, I'm going to read out a tweet here, actually, by a friend of the show called Rob Moore. Now, what Rob Moore said, he's a businessman, entrepreneur, multi-millionaire guy, who had previously just said that he was going to... Him and a load of other millionaires are leaving Britain, OK? And for anyone who thinks, oh, good, well, you can see... They pay a lot of tax, all right? You could argue whether or not they should...
jobs.
And provide a lot of jobs. So it is a problem. I might not be a millionaire, you might not be a millionaire, but it's important that we do have millionaires in Britain. He says that Reform UK's plan to slash capital gains tax on crypto from 24% to 10%, aiming to turn Britain into a crypto powerhouse. This is exactly what the country needs to make the UK great again. Reward risk takers, champion innovation, keep entrepreneurs here and stop driving millionaires away. Matthew, I mean, what's wrong with that?
Well, Rob was sat next to me this time last week in a very nice chat, but I'm afraid I absolutely agree that we need to reward risk-taking and entrepreneurs who are creating real jobs in Britain and not playing around with cryptocurrency, which is controversial in itself. And the other thing, you know, people, if you wouldn't think ordinary voters want a tax cut, Nigel Farage's priority is a tax cut for crypto bros. It's really bizarre. I think this is just a bit wacky and a bit weird. And as Sean says, this doesn't look like a Prime Minister in waiting. This looks like somebody who is used to being a little bit out there. That's not what the British people want in a Prime Minister. I think he's getting cocky.
I'd like to get your views on this, which is you compare... So forget the content so much of what Nigel Farage has said there. Look at the way he's done it, his delivery. He did a big speech on Tuesday as well, I think, didn't he? The delivery of that, the way he handles questioning, handles the press, all of that, there's no comparison, is there, between that and Keir Starmer?
No. And I think people... It is quite sort of... people have had enough of kind of very bog-standard politics. And I think we had a pandemic, we've had Brexit, we've had lots of disruptive things. And I think, actually, people are just going, maybe something else is better. But I think, as a Conservative, I think on immigration we need something more radical. On lots of things in the country to get growth, we need something more radical. And he is tapping into that. So it's now for the Conservatives to...
You're correct, he's tapping into something. I would disagree that people are bored. What people want, what people need is stability. The turning around of this country isn't going to be some revolution. Hold on,
it will be... the same thing carries on.
It will be evolution.
Well.
I fully accept there's many parts of our policy where we need to grasp the nettle, not tinker around the edges. But I don't think he's demonstrated that, because you have to demonstrate teacher, you understand how to move politics along, how you move our system along. And I really want to say something. What he did today, communicating, is not what Keir Starmer. I'm no fan of Keir Starmer. I was very critical of him. But he was being attacked by our very skillful press. Nigel was being questioned by his chum.
But no, on Tuesday. No, I will say about that. On Tuesday, he did a press conference, and the press just bounced off it.
Fine, that's fine, but it's bouncing off him. But as we get closer in, we're going to want more and more detail. What are you actually going to do, Nigel? And how much is it going to cost us? I want you to answer those questions, but it's going to change as time goes on.
And the number one or two issues that voters talk about, sorry, Patrick, is the NHS. You know, and this is a long way for people who are worried about waiting lists, who are worried about a decent school place for their kids, and for social care, is a long way from a hotel ballroom in Las Vegas.
Fair enough. But what about that? Let's deal with the fact that he is, yet again, in America. A mostly American audience, he said. I'll take his word for it. I imagine it was. It's in Vegas. Lapping it up, clearly. He goes down very well with the Americans. Been on tour with Trump, personal friends with President Trump. You know, he's big in America. Is that not a good thing for Britain's Prime Minister to be? I don't reckon if you walked around America now, anyone could really pick Keir Starmer out of a lineup, could they?
Possibly. Well, we saw him in the Oval Office being rather obsequious to Donald Trump, but I can't imagine Americans identifying with such a socialist prime minister here. You know, most Americans are fairly right-wing. They want low taxes, freedoms, all of those things. But many Conservatives want that. So capital gains going down. Personal allowance going up, I'd support that as a Conservative.
We don't need a Prime Minister who's big in America. We need a Prime Minister who makes Britain big in America.
Absolutely.
The fact that they can't identify... I mean, half the people in this country probably couldn't identify Keir Starmer. He's that boring. But the point is, we need someone who's saying Britain... For instance, when he said we don't make it... We invented the computer, the jet engine and the internet. Let's be clear, we run the world with ideas.
Yeah, good. Hear. And that's possibly why we need to get back to the values of our forefathers, which was another message that Nigel Farage said that we're going to come away from that now. But when I come back, I've got this absolutely box office. So we came away from it rather too soon. I'm back. I've got this absolutely box office clip of Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Minister, going to the London Underground and just picking off fare dodgers. It's absolutely classic. And I've got the media, the left-wing media's reaction to it, and all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages.
Nuns.
And some dancing nuns. Are you not entertained?
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Eve, very good morning. You commentate on this. This is your subject. What do you think? Why is this happening? Because we're sitting now. I'm at a stage now where all my kids are growing up. Whatever. I don't have to face this thing anymore. But I'm suddenly stopping and going, What am I paying this for? Why are we paying this? Why is this going to 750 schools and not all schools?
So this is a pilot run by the Department for Education to look at how this programme can work. It was a manifesto commitment from the Labour Party at the last election, and they're very keen to roll this out nationally, but they're doing this pilot for a short period until July to see how they can do this effectively to ensure that it meets the most children. So really, that's a kind of sensible way of rolling out what is quite a big programme.
It's important to do the pilots and study it and see who it helps and who it doesn't, and how expensive it could be if it's rolled out
getting the money
nationally.
To pay for this?
Well, exactly. What do they say about that, Eve? I mean, where are they going to get the money to pay for it?
So they've committed to 30 million towards it. To be honest, we're in a situation as a country where 1/4 of primary school teachers are saying that they regularly spend their own money on feeding kids. That cannot be right. We know that we've got a child poverty problem in this country, and I think it's a reasonably good use of taxpayers' money to be spending it on ensuring that children go to school and they are fed and able to learn.
Well, I just look and I think the basic primary parental responsibility is to look after your children, to feed your children. And I sit and scratch my head and say, of all the things that we can do as parents, all the things we can spend money on, are you telling me that you can't give your kid a bit of toast and a cup of tea in the morning?
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. I'm just going to take you straight back to Nigel Farage in Las Vegas, actually. Here is what he said about Sir Keir Starmer.
We have Keir Starmer, our socialist Prime Minister, is terrified. Do you know, he mentioned me 16 times today in a speech. I'm living rent-free inside his head.
Well, get ready for what's on the front of the Daily Telegraph, because I think that Keir Starmer is about to lose a big ally. But let me round off the front pages first. So we start this round of front pages with The Sun. Ex-Royal Marine charged over Liverpool parade horror. Dad of 3 on GBH wraps after 79 hurt. I will stress again, he has just been charged. He's not entered a plea. We have to wait for all of that. The Daily Mail. Kemi blasts race to the bottom on welfare handouts. The Tory leader takes aim at both Nigel Farage and Sir Keir Starmer for asking taxpayers to fund unlimited child support for others. Get ready for this. Here's the Daily Telegraph. Lord Hermer, who is Keir Starmer's great friend and our Attorney-General, calls to quit the ECHR are like the rise of Nazism. The Attorney-General warns critics that the rejection of international law resembles 1930s Germany. So this is our Attorney-General, Keir Starmer's friend, saying that. Now, just quickly, actually, Matthew, on this, because we're a bit pressed for time, what do you think he's got to go over this?
Yes. Look, I mean, Labour MP after Labour MP who I speak to says that Hermer has got to go, that he's a block in the government, and it would be a real sign, you know, the Starmer's serious about an agenda that is more on your side.
Do you think Keir Starmer's going to have to sack his friend, the Attorney General?
Well, I think he should. Whether he will is a big question. It's a big challenge for him. He's quite stubborn, Keir. He may not want to do it because he is a friend and he is, you know, from his similar background as a human rights lawyer. But we can't be having this. And this is exactly...
Why not?
Well, because, I mean, the Times headline says Lord Chief in Nazi jibe at Tories and reform. We haven't yet had time to read the full story.
Let's do that. Well, okay,
yeah.
Well, let's move on to that then, sorry. So, yes, the Times, just to continue with the newspaper front pages, Lord Chief in Nazi jibe at Tories and reform. Lord Hermer attacks pick and mix attitude to ECHR. I'll give you the detail on this. So, Lord Hermer, the Attorney-General, said Britain must be ready to reform international agreements, such as the European Convention on Human Rights, so they retain democratic legitimacy. But he categorised Kemi Badenoch's policy to disengage from the ECHR and other international bodies if they no longer serve British interests as a pick-and-mix approach similar to that pursued by Nazi Germany. I mean, he then went on to say that reforms policy at the last election to leave the ECHR and the foreign court in Strasbourg, again, making comments about that being like...
Can I just do two quick points on that, if others will forgive me? One of which is, was this speech cleared by number 10? Because all Cabinet Ministers, Attorney Generals, just about a Cabinet Minister's speeches are meant to be cleared by number 10. Big question mark over that. And all I'd say is I can hear Labour MP after Labour MP saying, remember when Hillary Clinton accused all Trump supporters of, being X, Y and Z, which weren't very nice words?
Or garbage, the Joe Biden moment, the garbage moment.
Or even when Cameron called UKIP people UKIP supporters fruitcakes.
I think it's an outrageous thing to say. And it's yet another detachment from ordinary people. Ordinary people know that immigration we won't solve the massive crisis in global movement without significant change to law.
9 Prime Ministers from other European countries have done a statement that they want the ECHR to change.
But it is not going to...
No, it won't. But what I mean is, Hermer's not even saying that. Is he accusing them of being Nazis?
The problem is here. He's a hypocrite because he said things will need to be reformed, some things to say. He's the one actually suggesting pick a mix, but yet he's leveraged it to call people Nazis. And the throwing around of this term is often done by people on the left, and it feels like to me that he's trying to shut down debate.
Look, I think it's especially astonishing when you look at what's happened recently with Keir Starmer's other great friend, Philippe Sands, the lawyer who was representing, or barrister, Casey, who was representing Mauritius in the giveaway of British sovereign territory, who then proceeded to do a talk in which he gloated about representing actions against the British state, saying that every single member of the English bar would like to do it. Came across like a really smarmy and likeable character. I hate to say it, but I think it's true. Anyone watching that would say it. And then you've got Lord Hermer as well, who's another one of Keir Starmer's international lawyer friends, basically saying that people who want to leave the ECHR is like the Nazis. This is a terrible look for the Prime Minister.
Starmer needs to get rid of these people. These people do not like Britain. And a house divided, against itself will never succeed.
Considering some of the people that he's been willing to represent, now I know that there's the cab rank rule, and I'm not trying to fall foul of that, but Jerry Adams being some of them, one of the people who is linked with the masterminding of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, all of this stuff. So realistically, if you're talking about people who are willing to or open to the idea of leaving the ECHR to protect our own borders, but at the same time, professionally speaking, you're also willing to represent people like Jerry Adams or people who have been towards the Islamist terrorist spectrum. I'm sorry, but I find that a bit ropey.
Most British people, quite rightly, want a government and our authorities to be acting in our interests. And this is not the perception this gives. It is the human rights of the rest of the world over the British people, and that stinks.
We've just heard Nigel Farage there in Las Vegas, making a speech there, loosely speaking about crypto, but mostly really just getting stuck into the Prime Minister. Matthew, this is fodder for him, isn't it? Tomorrow, it's all going to be about this.
As I was saying 5 minutes before we got the papers, Number 10 will be pleased that they had Keir in a factory, a glass factory in St Helens, while Nigel was off with his Bitcoin bros, and now you have this, which plays right into that narrative about Keir being a North London Liberal lawyer. So this is not good, and I wonder if he was freelancing and this wasn't approved.
You're right. The juxtaposition between the whole thing he's trying to push recently, working class, red wall, northern, all of that stuff, versus, quite, international human rights lawyer sitting there having these luxury metropolitan police. Very odd. Excuse me. We are done now for tonight, basically. Thank you, guys. It's been a slightly different show, but thank you as well, people watching and listening at home. I hope to see as many of you here as possible in this studio live tomorrow night for my Friday Night Live studio audience show. Well, look, hey, come on, if you've not been down yet, why not? It is always good value. Headliners are up next. Give it a watch. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Take it easy.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your GB News weather coming to you from the Met Office. Now, the weather's looking pretty mixed as we go through the next 24 hours or so. Yes, there will be some rain around, but not everywhere. The driving force for the changeable weather is an area of low pressure. It's tracked across the north of the UK, now pushing away towards Scandinavia. But we do have a trailing front lingering across us. This is going to bring a bit more cloud, a bit more rain across parts of northern England, maybe southern Scotland and into Wales overnight. Also a swathe of wetter weather feeding into northern Scotland. Some heavy bursts of rain likely there. Otherwise, some drier, perhaps even clear weather, but with some warm, humid air around. Temperatures not dropping much at all. It's going to be a pretty mild start today for many of us tomorrow. A mild start, yes, and also a bit of a wet one for some places across parts of central Scotland. A fair bit of rain first thing, although across the far north of mainland Scotland, quickly turning bright and sunny. Also a fair amount of cloud across southern parts of Scotland into Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain. East is best for the sunshine across northern England. Further west, a bit more cloud, some rain, and similar across parts of Wales, and maybe in parts of the southwest could see a few spots of rain. But the best chance of sunshine through tomorrow, that will be towards the southeast. Good deal of blue skies breaking through, and here with that warm, humid air, I'm expecting temperatures to rise, highs of around 24 or 25 Celsius here. Also some decent sunshine across the far north of Scotland, but in between there will be a few showery bursts around, a bit more cloud, some outbreaks of rain affecting parts of northern England and into Wales. Then as we go into the weekend, a bit of a northwest-southeast split. Some wet, blustery weather feeding in across many parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps into England and Wales towards the northwest, but further southeast, a greater chance of staying largely dry, often sunny and even warmer than tomorrow. We're looking at highs of around 25 or 26 Celsius before turning fresher by Sunday.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys.